What is Sony doing? Seriously, they shut down Bluepoint, one of their most technically talented studios. And in the same year, PlayStation has released one first party game, being Ghost Yota. One. For a company that's built its entire identity on prestige exclusives, this isn't just a slow year. This feels like mismanagement. Let's talk about how we got here, and why PlayStation fans should be worried. There was a time when PlayStation was untouchable. Every year you could count on big cinematic single-player games, polished exclusives, studio confidence, and clear direction. PlayStation didn't just compete, they dictated the standard. And now, studios are getting shut down. Over 12, 13 studios, projects have been cancelled, and the release calendar is basically empty. That's not dominance, that's drift. Bluepoint wasn't just another studio. So let's start with Bluepoint. This was some struggling indie team bleeding money. Or wasn't some team bleeding money. This was a studio known for technical precision. They rebuilt games from the ground up. That was their purpose, like. They delivered quality, they understood polish. Sony made Flower, or Bluepoint made Flower, they made the Nathan Drake collection. Mini games, they did Shadow of the Colossus remake. The list goes on. When Sony acquired them, being Bluepoint, it felt like a smart long-term move. Okay, we thought, they're investing in craftsmanship, and now, closed, gone. No long runway, no visible transition, just shut down. That's not just disappointing, it's alarming. Because when a studio delivers quality isn't safe, what message does that send? It tells developers you are expendable. It tells fans nothing is guaranteed. And it tells investors Sony doesn't know what its internal roadmap looks like. That's not the signal you want to send. Now let's talk about output. One first party title this year. That's it. And that being Ghost Yota, which was pretty good. You know, it got pretty good reviews and everything. But look, I'm not here to trash the game itself. That's not the point. The issue is volume, momentum, and presence. You can't build a premium ecosystem on silence. PlayStation is not supposed to be the platform where you're waiting around hoping for something to play. They used to stock years with multiple exclusives, different genres, different tones, different experiences. Now it feels like we're surviving on leftovers and PC ports. And that's basically the point. I mean, 2026 alone, you had they once again remastered Last of Us, a collection, Last of Us 1 and 2 collection. They also did Days Gone remastered. That was it. Like, nothing. Days Gone, the developers, I think they were working on something else. They wanted to work on something, and Sony turned them down. It was the next game, the sequel. They said no. Sony turned them down. And Sony's push now for live services, biting them in the arse. Of course, we all need to look at Concord. How does a platform that once dominated the narrative end up with a single flagship release in a year? That's not a drought, that's a breakdown in pipeline planning. And here's the bigger issue. This feels like a strategy confusion. First, Sony pivoted heavily towards live service games. And then, most of these projects just got cancelled. For example, you had Last of Us Factions. There was this God of War remake. Not a God of War remake. There was a live service God of War game that Bluepoint was going developing, and Sony cancelled the project. And now they're actually shutting down the fucking studio. You know, so it's crazy. And Sony, of course, have millions invested. I mean, all you need to look at is Concord. 400 million they blew. Years of development, no, nothing. So what was the plan? Well, this is Jim Ryan's and Herman Holt's idea, the whole live service idea. And because from the outside it looked like overcorrection, panic pivoting, and no consistent identity, you don't go from single player prestige kings to a live service portfolio push, and back again without chaos internally. And when leadership wobbles, studios suffer. Bluepoint might just be the first domino people are noticing. And the thing with Bluepoint is, like, Sony have such a large IP, they have a large portfolio with years, like since the PlayStation, the very first PlayStation. I think of games like Cycling Filter. There's, like, you could do Eco. I'm trying to think at the top of my head, like there's Twisted Metal, although they tried that and they failed. That failed as well. Even a lot of people are dying for Legend of Dragoon. That'd be huge, like. Imagine like Bluepoint made Legend of Dragoon remake. That'd be epic, like. We'll never see that. And that's the thing with Sony, they're never going to give us that. Like, I remember there was this game on the PlayStation 1 called C12. It was an action sci-fi game. Pretty cool. It was one of the last games for the PS1, but it was actually pretty good, like. I mean, Siphon Filter, imagine like a remade Siphon Filter in 2026 or 2027. Could you imagine what that would look like? You know, all we can do is dream, though. And of course, you know, remember how PlayStation used to move. There was swagger, there was confidence. They would show gameplay years in advance. They would confidently announce projects, they would control the conversation, and now announcements are scarce. Showcases feel thin, and release dates slip quietly. It feels reactive, and that's dangerous. Because in this industry, perception matters. The players start thinking, maybe I don't need this platform right now. That thought spreads fast. And then when you have subscriptions like PS Plus, Game Pass, PC gaming, cross-platform options, they're stronger than ever. You cannot afford to look complacent. This isn't this is not me, you know, talking fanboy shite. Like, this isn't about picking sides. Yes, I prefer Xbox, but at the same time, I want all the platforms to do well. But this is about standards. PlayStation earned loyalty because they delivered, and that's the thing with PlayStation. A lot of people claim it's the exclusives. No, PlayStation have the brand. You have to think about it this way. Everybody back in my day, like I live in Ireland, right? So everyone back in my town, everyone grew up on a PlayStation. Their brother owned a PlayStation, their sister owned a PlayStation, everyone had one. And that's the way it was. You know, people would play GTA, they'd play FIFA, they'd play whatever they had back then, Final Fantasy or Metal Gear Solid, Crash Bandicoot. These were the games that made the PlayStation. And this is what people loved. And you come together and you play, and everyone had one. And then it was a case of someone's uncle had a PlayStation. That's the way it was. PlayStation is just dominates in Europe, like that's just the way it is. But at the end of the day, you can't quote them past glory. You can't sell nostalgia forever. And you definitely can't shut down talented studios while releasing almost nothing and expect fans to just clap lightly. Consumers know his patterns. And right now the pattern looks like contraction. So what could this mean? Well, let's zoom out. If this is a reset year, fine, but this reset requires transparency. And Sony require communication, they require reassurance. What we're getting instead is silence and studio closures. And that combination creates doubt. The long-term roadmap, the health of internal teams, the leadership direction. You don't rebuild trust by saying nothing, you rebuild trust by showing a strong lineup. And right now, for 2026, all we have so far is sorrow. That's just another game. One game. And here's the uncomfortable truth, I'm not going to lie. PlayStation built this brand on being the home of multiplayer games, like I said earlier. If those games slow down, if studios disappear, if momentum stalls, then the brand weakens. Not overnight, but gradually, and gradual decline is how giants fall. Bluepoint closing isn't just sad, it's symbolic. It represents a shift from growth to consolidation, from expansion to tightening, from confidence to caution. And that should concern anyone, regardless of if you're a PlayStation fan or not, the future of PlayStation. Like, I look back on the N64, they had some good first party and second party games, but the third party support was terrible. But it seems to be twisting the other way around with the PS5. It's like, the PS5 is selling very well because of third party support, and that's basically it. There's no other way. Like their first party output is very, very weak. And the thing is, you need two pillars for a strong brand. You need first party content and you need third parties. The only thing saving PlayStation at the moment is third parties. And PlayStation really have no output of first party games, like enough for me to turn around and say I'm going to go out and buy a PlayStation. Maybe there's a massive showcase coming, we don't know. Maybe the pipeline is secretly stacked. Maybe next year there's episodes explodes. I hope so, but right now the optics are rough. With one major release, now you've Bluepoint closed. Many, over 10, 12 cancelled projects. And there's nothing but silence. Yeah, only last week they announced 91 million PS5 sold. That's fine. Console sales are great, yeah, for Sony. They're not great for the fans though. Like, if you go out and buy a PS5 today, like, what are you exactly going to be playing? Fortnite, GTA, FIFA, Madden. That's it, like. It's not the PlayStation standard you were promised, like. But look, that's just one man's thoughts. What do you think? Is it just a quiet rebuild, or is Sony starting to lose its edge? Let me know below in the comments. And if you want more breakdowns like this, hit subscribe and hit the like button. But if this trend continues, lads, we're going to have a lot more to talk about. And as I always say, you're a Chef Bullock.